I am so excited to welcome on the podcast Connection Coders Fab and Claire. They are based in Redding, California, where they are leading a school for Christian actors, dancers, and people pursuing their dreams in the entertainment industry. They're coming on today to share their Connection Codes journey, what has changed in their life, and what they want others to take away from this education. Without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome to the Connection Code. This is the podcast where we break open our emotions to take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I am your host, Tara Wages, and joining me is marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Clint Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis. Together, they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the guide to human connection. And we're so glad you're here.
Hello, world.
Hi, friends. We are so excited today to have some special friends. Yes. We've been trying for months to get them on our podcast, and they are world travelers, so they are all over the place, but today we're together, and so excited to introduce our audience to Fab and Claire. And we won't give away anything beyond that, so welcome, you guys, and we would love for you to, thank you for being on our podcast, and we would love to hear who you are and then kind of how you first were introduced to the Connection Codes.
Oh, well, first and foremost, it's beautiful to see your faces. So good to be on your podcast. We're so excited. But yeah, my name is Fab. I am currently the Dean of Bethel Conservatory of the Arts in Redding, California. And it's my beautiful wife, Claire.
Hi.
And we started a conservatory about 7 years ago because we'd both been in the entertainment industry, Claire as a dancer, myself as an actor and a producer, since we were pretty young, really. And we just realized there were so many believers in the industry that, well, for one, so many believers in the industry that were necessarily struggling with their faith, and so many believers in the church that had this desire to want to go into the performing arts, but were told by their church that, oh, it's probably not a good idea because Hollywood is the big bad dragon and it's going to swallow you up. Or the fact they just didn't realize that God would call them to be a missionary in this field, because unless you're a missionary in the 1040 window in some developing countries, then the entertainment field is a real lesser mission field. So now we're 7 years in and we train actors, dancers, screenwriters, musical theater performers to go into the industry, not just because they want to, how do I say it, become a missionary in the industry, but because they actually love it, right? They do it from a point of love. But they also want to see the culture and the content of the current streaming platforms, Hollywood change, and just really be a voice of hope to people, whether it's the makeup artist, the grip, the boom operator, the actor, to actually, don't we? That's our heart.
Wow. I love
that.
So, are you guys faking the accent right now, or is that part of your life, where you're from kind of thing?
Well, I'm from Nashville. Actually, I'm from my accent's actually from Franklin.
No, we're from the UK. So we've lived here in Redding, California for 11 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
Still not changed it, Phyllis. Still kept, our kids have even still kept their English accents.
Our kids. It was a little prayer of mine when we knew that the Lord was taking us to America. I was like, that's awesome, but can they keep their English accents, please? And because they were 8 years old and 10 years old. And so it was a bit of a joke. It was my dad actually that said, oh, you're going to America. And he said he was really excited for us. But one of the first things was, what's going to happen to Bella and Joshy's little English accents? I'm like, we'll stay strong. But no, it's funny. I think his voice more has been changed. He has the little
American twangs
sometimes.
But we love America, so why wouldn't I have some of the twangs?
Yeah. No, this is our home. We love America, and
Well, what's funny for us is we love hearing the accent You know, it's like, please keep it because we love it. And so we're just teasing about that, but love that you guys have that heritage, and that is really incredible. And so
hold on, go over the vital statistics about the two of you. How long you've been married, your kids?
So we have been married for 24
see, this is the thing.
years.
It's usually the guy that gets it wrong, and now she's getting it wrong.
25 years next year. So it's a big year for us. And I turn 50 next year.
Look how beautiful she looks for 50.
Yes.
Oh my God. She looks incredible.
Yes.
And we have two children, Bella, who's 21, and Joshi, who is 19. So and they're here with us in Redding, California.
That's amazing. Cool. And so how did you guys first encounter the connection codes?
It was, so the children's pastor at the time, Seth Dahl, I know you guys were coming up to, this must be like 5 years ago, I would have thought. And Seth Dahl was maybe, would it be more? I don't know, probably around about that. But Seth Dahl was like, you've got to meet Glenn and Phyllis. And I was like, heck yeah, would love to. And then I think we got on a call, we got on a FaceTime and we chatted. And then you came up to Reading and we met, we went out for dinner, and then you spoke at Bethel Conservatory of the Arts. And I remember saying, everybody has got to get this book. Whoever can't buy this book, I'll pay for you. So I remember a lot of people put their hand up, and I was like, right, make sure you get rid of all these books and read it. So yeah, that's how we were introduced. And then and Paul McClure as well, and then the rest, they say, is history.
Well, and I love that you're saying you think it's 5 years or longer, and actually it's not at all. We came to Reading in 2021, so it's only been 2 years. And yet that's what I love about the connection codes. It's like it changes the time as far as friendship. And, we've been in your home, which is so incredibly special. And you've been in our home, and it's as though we've known each other for decades, because the closeness and the depth of our relationship and just the transparency that we've shared, which is one of the things that I love about the connection codes, is the people that we have met through this. It's like there's an instant connection, and definitely have experienced that with you guys, and just love all of that. And, part of why we really wanted to have you on today is because it is powerful for y'all to share what the connection codes has done, just the actual takeaway, what has stuck, what has worked, because I think that there's often on podcasts, we do all the talking in a sense. And people go, okay, well, that works for you, but what about someone who's been married 25 years?
Yeah, and has a British accent.
Right, from a different culture.
That couldn't possibly work.
Right, well.
The accent definitely does make the connection codes far more appealing, I think. And I kind of do it in a Shakespearean accent as well, being an actor, so I'd use
it. And that makes all the difference.
The core emotioneth wheel.
Love it.
Yeah.
So big takeaways. What has struck you the most and stuck with you the most with the connection codes?
I would say, for one thing, it's not just been life-changing, it's been beyond transformative. I mean, I can give you some backstory as well. We tried it before, but I had an encounter in 2022 with the Lord that totally changed absolutely my life, changed everything. And then I think it was applying the connection codes after being healthy and getting healthy that really, I would say, accelerated the process. Because before that, when I tried to do it, we would start something and then we wouldn't always continue the pattern. We'd break out of it and it would work for a bit. But once I had that encounter with the Lord, if you want me to share it, I'd be willing to share it. But that literally changed everything. And every day for the last 15 months, we have been implementing it every single day. And I think what has changed is our disconnection has gone from days to minutes.
Wow.
And we've never, and the thing is, we live it. Like, we're not just saying it because we're on your podcast. It's something we do every single day. And, we do it with our staff. We do it. It just is. I think for me, it made me realize my triggers. And it stopped me leaning into my triggers and just listen rather than trying to fix.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that it is all about the listening to each other and valuing each other rather than the fixing thing. I mean, that's been the big thing that has, it's taken time, because we had many years of in a cycle of the most people would think we're doing well, and we were kind of doing well, but we had these cycles in our marriage that were just like, oh, so destructive.
And I would say, I'd like to disagree. I'd like to say that we weren't doing well, because you can either be okay, or you can go, no, we actually want to thrive. And I actually will say to this woman, she hates me saying this, and she probably doesn't want to say it, but for 23 years of marriage, I did not treat her well. Like, I did not in any way, shape, or form treat her like the queen that she is. And I was sat down in Italy, and she was sat next to me, and the Lord just hit me across the chest with a baseball bat. And he said, you're an addict. And I said, what am I addicted to? And he says, you're addicted to busyness. And he said, you medicate with cigars, social media, and alcohol. He said, you treat your wife like an employee, and you preach in a message you do not live.
Wow.
And from that moment, I went completely teetotal. I stopped all my my cycles of medication. And I realized that all I'd done for 23 years was cause her pain. Now, I'm not saying there weren't times when it was good, and she doesn't like me saying this. And I would say this, forgive me for saying this, because she thinks it's out of context. But I would verbally abuse her, and I would.
No, I don't mind you using that word. I think you have to have context.
I have to have context. The fact I did not give her a voice. And the moment I started to give her a voice by getting all these cycles of medication out and saying, right now, we're going to do everything we can. We use the connection code. Listen, I know you guys know this, but the connection codes isn't just a tool. It's transformed our lives.
Yeah.
Like, it has transformed our lives. Because prior to that, I lost all my staff because I was an absent leader. I was busy. I got my identity from busyness. The last 2 years, we've lost no staff.
Wow.
The way it's changed our lives has just been unbelievable. And I wanted to share that for context, that when I did it out of unhealth, I don't think I did it because it was a formula. Now I'm doing it because I'm like, oh no, this stuff works beyond belief. And giving her a voice and seeing how her voice has just exploded in the conservatory and her confidence, it's a whole different level, isn't it?
I think it's the fact that it's the that listening thing, the very simple thing of just listening and then not having to fix, because that was we were both doing that constantly. We would be having these things that would come up, and we think that we're listening to somebody.
Right.
And then coming in too quickly, and well, we can do this, and we've done it with our children. Gosh, I was doing it all the time with Bella and Joshy, thinking that I was actually doing something that was going to benefit them and help them, and thinking that was my, me being mother, coming and just going, oh, but look, I can see this pain, but let me help you, and so I did that constantly. But actually, with what we've learned through just healthy communication and learning to listen and not to have to fix that. That is just such a huge thing for us. And then the other person, this ground that we have now. And I said to Fab this morning, I just gave him a big hug, and I said, oh, was it last night? I said, thank you for being, he's a safe place. He's a safe place for me to actually feel, I'm not, there's no rush here. There's no, we're doing it because we can see the fruit of it, but there's not this kind of, I always felt that I was the one catching up to my husband, like, oh my gosh, if I don't figure it out now, then what am I going to do? that was I realized, at the undercurrent of how I lived my life, but now it's, we feel like we're on the same team, don't we?
100%. It's taken us 24 years, but like as long as you get there, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I never saw her as my best friend before, but now she absolutely is.
Yeah.
Well, I want to back up to that because I do appreciate the honesty, Fab, of you saying you treated her like an employee. And I know you work together, so it's almost like that's one ingredient. There are, people listening to this podcast who have that dynamic with their partner where they're in a work environment and that is super painful when you treat your spouse like an employee. And sometimes we do it and we're not even working together. We have two separate jobs, and yet there is that kind of that attitude of I'm in charge, you're lesser than, you need to just listen to me. And I know that when I sold my company and I came over and started working with Glenn on connection codes, for us, that was a new dance. We had, I would say we had partnered well over the years in business. We've always been entrepreneurs, but this was really different. And he's the educated one. He went and got all the degrees and went to school. I definitely didn't have that. And I was trying to catch up. Like I was trying to learn all the things and definitely get that dynamic. But I'm so thankful that Glenn never did treat me like an employee. I would say there were times where he was trying to teach me. So he's much more a teacher. So he would treat me like I needed to be taught something. But that's the other thing about connection codes. I love having the tools for me to say that hurts or that's sad for me, that's pain for me. And then we could talk about it because he was not aware of that dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are times that I would just point something out. I'm thinking it's going to be an 8-second interaction and she would get hit with shame.
Yeah.
And I didn't, so often didn't know that. And if she doesn't tell me, well, I don't know it. And then I, experience her as being distant from me for the next hour, the next 2 hours, whatever. With the connection code, she's able just to say, "Ooh, I felt some shame when you said that." And it doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It doesn't mean that, for a while when we were first doing the webinars, she would say that really resonated with me instead of resonated. Well, it's just a word. Her first language is German. She grew up in Germany. And, there's just certain words that she misses on.
And that's a big one. And I still can't get it, even when he's sitting beside me and telling you, I can't even hear it. It sounds like the same word to me.
I didn't know that was, she would get hit with shame. And we're in the middle of, this webinar, we do the experience assignments and then we're getting back on in 6 minutes. And then she got to the point where she could just tell me that. She goes, "Babe, I feel a lot of shame, whenever you say that." And it was just so beautiful. Because I view her as so phenomenal, so stalwart, that nothing phases her. And we've just learned the last 2 or 3 years, she's actually just a human. I thought she was this, Amazon Wonder Woman person that's never faced by anything, but she's actually just a human, which is pretty cool.
So in going back to that statement that you made, Fab, how did that play out with the two of you when you realized that you treated her like an employee? What did that look like?
Oh my gosh. I was the one that was the bullet train and she was the slower one. And I would always goad her for her pace, and she'd come home and she'd ask me things. And I was like, "Why are you asking me how to do your computer? Like, we employ people to do it, get there quicker. Why am I telling you 3 times? Did you not write it down?" Like, if I was to tell an employee to do this and they wouldn't do it 3 or 4 times, I'd be having a really hard conversation with them. So why am I doing it with you? And just that dysfunctional kind of banter that was, not even banter really. It was, it was real accusatory. And it was,
but it was also the fact that I think we were both bringing home our work, where we didn't know a clear boundary to cut off, because we were still in startup with BCA, and there always seemed to be so many fires that we were involved in putting out, and so it was very difficult to find we weren't good at setting boundaries. Like, okay, when we come in, that's it, and we can, live without having to bring our work in. And that was a huge thing as well.
I mean, that was a little part of it, but I think it was the posture of heart, like, because we still have fires to put out. We still have work that we bring home, but it's the internal world that's completely changed.
Right.
Yeah. And to get to the core, even the pain points of the day, for either one of you, but, for Fab to be able to just go, a lot of pain today, pain. Claire goes, ooh, what happened with pain? What did I miss? And for him to be able to process that in 30 seconds instead of not processing it for 45 minutes and then, Claire's a smart girl. She knows something's happening with him, but she didn't know what. And so even if he doesn't say anything, critical to her, she still senses that, he probably regrets marrying me, or he wishes that, I was taller or whatever. And so they just lose each other. And for him to be able to say, a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
And that core, it's like the core belief is just set in stone in that, in the negative sense. For me, it was, I'm never good enough. The evidence is there. I'm not good enough. It just never changed. But now it's changing. It's totally different.
Because I remember she would say, I never think I'll be good enough for you. And I remember like 12 years ago, when we just got here, I went back in the room and I said, you won't. And I can't believe just stuff like that came out of my mouth. That was so ridiculous thinking about it. And I guess even though we've been through, that encounter, we got back from a deliverance retreat a month ago, which again radically changed our lives. But I think there's still the guy at the deliverance retreat said one thing. He says, how have you felt after deliverance? And I said, I feel a lot of peace and joy, but I still feel a shame on how I treated my wife, how I treated my daughter. And, it's living through that elements of shame, of lost time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we're quicker now to bring it up to the surface.
Well, you do this a lot. You'll just come into a room and say, babe, I'm feeling shame on this. And we have a moment, it doesn't have to. It honestly, it blows me away. Yeah. He just comes in and he'll just go, I'm feeling shame right now. So we just have, but you're right. It doesn't have to take, 2 hours, but if it does take 2 hours, let's go there. It's so powerful.
Yeah. I have to read you this because,
I just want to say, Claire, when he says that, I can even see it right now. It washes over you.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful that just walking in and saying, I'm just really feeling shame about, I'm remembering this, this time that I said this to you, and I feel shame about that. And it just washes. There's so much healing that occurs in relationship when the wounding has happened in relationship. To be able to say that to her, it's so beautiful. And it does, like you say, it doesn't have to take but 30 seconds, but it washes over you. And it's like a blanket. I think of it as a blanket has been put around your shoulders on a cold night. And you feel the warmth of that whenever those words are spoken, which is so beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, I have to read you this. We did an intensive with this couple, and this dude would just say stuff, and I'd be like, what did you just say? Hold on, I got to write that down. It was amazing. So listen to this. He goes, and again, this is just casual conversation. I'm thinking this is a 6-month research project that he came up with this, but he just kind of said it randomly. He said, shame tells me I'm not in alignment with who I want to be. And it's an invitation to become a better version of myself because I'm capable of more. I want Fab to feel shame, for him to go, ooh, babe, I feel some shame. She goes, ooh, what's happening with shame? What am I missing? I can be better for you. Dang it. I was not the best possible version of myself for you, just for myself's sake, but for you. And I'm moving up. I'm moving on. I'm leveling up. I'm going to become more powerful. Number one, because I just can and I need to. Number two, because you deserve it. And we're going to rock and roll, and we're going to have fun together the rest of our lives. Whew! Yeah. Sure, I'm glad Fab felt shame. And, in the church, we've said to people, oh, you need to be shame-free. Absolutely not. A shame-free person is called a sociopath. And we're trying to create more sociopaths. And exactly what you're saying, Fab, if I'm hearing you right, that, you went for quite some time where you just missed it with this woman and didn't get punched in the face with shame. You were not aware. You weren't tuned into the guilt and shame. They said, hey, Fab, buddy, pay attention. Don't treat her like that. And then it finally sank in and you're like, ooh, shoot. Not once, twice, 10 times, a bunch of times. I behaved with this woman that was not the best version of me. I can be the best version of me.
So powerful.
Yeah. I love, even you brought up your daughter, Bella, and just saying you missed with her as well. And to even realize, just saying the simple sentence, I just got hit with some shame about this. Just to remember that washes over her.
Right.
It's like a blanket. It's so beautiful. Yeah. And I think sometimes we complicate the whole process, right? We know that there's times when we realize we've not been the best parent or the best spouse, and then we complicate it instead of just using the simple tools and the words of saying, I feel shame.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think what I really liked about it is, Glenn, is what you said, like 19 seconds to diffuse any emotion, right? That's what it is, right? And the thing is, what I realized was, I love what you both do. This is science. So it's a law. Like, if you don't implement a law or try and contravene a law, something's going to happen. Like, if you have 10 people, black, white, young, tall, Asian, whatever, on the top of the building, and they all jump off, gravity is no respecter of people. You will all die.
Nope.
So if there is a law of communication, why are we trying to contravene it?
Yeah, can't be done. Yeah.
Wow. You either evoke the law or you don't. But if you don't evoke the law, it's like trying to say to a bird, become a fish. Like, well, you can't. So if there's a scientific way to communicate, then communicate with it rather than against it.
Yeah. And that's the reason we call the connection codes, because we're coded this way. This is hardwired inside of Claire, and we can resist it all we want. And we can say, oh no, Claire, gravity won't play in today. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're faith-based or not. This is real. And if Claire does not feel seen and heard by Fab, they won't connect deeply. Not because I wrote about it on page 87. It's because it was true before I was born. It's just the human condition. And that's part of the whole message of the connection codes is this is true for every human on the planet. You don't get to opt out of this. And it doesn't matter if you know your personality profile. If you do, great, learn it. I think you should learn as much as you can about yourself, your love language, whatever. That's awesome. But if you don't learn that and you know how to use the connection codes, you will connect deeply. If you don't learn, again, the connection codes, not our book, the connection codes, but the human condition connection codes, you will not be able to connect.
But the thing is, you've made it so attainable. Like sometimes we feel these laws are so complicated, but like I think that God gives us laws that are actually meant for you to be able to do. Otherwise, He wouldn't have given you the laws. And it's like what I love about it is like you tell me having an emotion is not wrong. It just is, right? But I think we can lean into that so much. But the point is, we're in a world now where we apply it to one area, but not another area. You go, well, I'm using my emotions in an area, but another area. It's like if you have a car and you feel you want to put, because my emotions tell me I want to put orange juice in the engine today. I'm like, no, it only works on gas, diesel, or electric. Your emotions do not care. And I'm like, well, when it comes to connection, just because I might be triggered or my emotions be high, count to 19 and then go, I'm not going to be triggered. I'm going to put the formula in place because it works. And once it's tried and tested and you see the results of it, then just keep doing it, replicate it. You want to go to the gym and you want to work out, then don't have a McDonald's. Like go to the gym because there is a law of resistance training. And I think as humans, sometimes we allow our emotion too much to take over rather than just trusting the process.
Yeah, and our coding, again, if you look at a 12-month-old or an 18-month-old, they just process the emotion immediately. And that's the reason they're able to go to sleep at night. And we get older and then we force ourselves to go to sleep. My parents instituted the go to sleep or I'll spank you policy, which always helped me sleep better. And I'm not mad at them. I think they were doing the best they knew how in that moment. But I can remember that, getting spanked for not going to sleep. And I'm like, no, I really don't feel like going to sleep. But anyway, and I'm not mad about it, but I'm marvel looking back like, ooh, that didn't work. Anyway, we're coded, we're hardwired to process the emotion immediately. And that's the way we're set up to do. And that never changes on any birthday. Where now we say to Claire, Claire, I want you to process emotion once a week. And this little girl who had a whole bunch more birthdays, it's like once a week or once a day. No. Just you inhale, you exhale, you inhale, you exhale. You experience the emotion, process it in the moment. The emotion just tapping you on the shoulder, giving you a message, telling you that there's something that you need to tune into. And you do that. And we just become more and more powerful. And this byproduct is we connect with the other. Whoever the other is, our partner, our kids, our neighbor, our mom, our friends. And yeah, I don't know. It's a beautiful thing. Again, I'm faith-based. I think it reflects the genius of God. Because I've really been struck just the last few months that, if Phyllis walks in the room and she goes, babe, I felt hurt by what you said earlier. If I follow her energy, if I ooh her, if I'm present with her, if I'm safe with her, help her process through the hurt, we are more bonded 35 seconds later than we were 35 seconds ago. So now I'm kind of glad that I hurt her. Not really. I don't want to hurt her on purpose. And I think that reflects the genius of God, that now this detriment has become a benefit. This negative has become a positive. And now it's like, whew, sure, I'm glad I hurt my wife, because now really feels safe with me. And again, I don't want to hurt her on purpose. But, we're going to miss with each other. I mean, we just, every human does. And when we miss, we actually that can be a benefit, that we're more connected. She feels safer with me now, 35 seconds later, because I was following her energy. I was present, safe for her.
It's so mad, because what we found as well is that it's happening to both of us. So we're figuring out what that is. And the after effect of that is the fact that it goes through our Bella and Joshi, our children. They witness, because there's been time now that they can actually witness the change. Like there's proof, there's fruit in what wasn't there beforehand, where we'd start something and would be really great for a while, and then we wouldn't finish it or whatever. They knew that cycle. They were in our house, do you know what I mean? But so now they can actually, we ask them, because there's been some stuff that has happened, especially for our daughter. She was the oldest one, and so we know that there's a lot of pain that has been caused by that. But there's a softening that's happening, and there's something that is just like it just feels like there's a river that's running through what and we're faith-based, through what God has done through us, going through our family, and also for our staff and faculty and students. We're building a school here, and so for us to see the effect and the fruit, slowly everything, but in a moment the shift happens, and then you're able to see the fruit of that after kind of weeks and months and then a year, and you're like, oh my gosh, none of our staff have left this year. They want to stay with us. You're like, wow, okay.
Wow. Yeah. That's exciting. I love it. And I do have to mention, especially because I'm a clinical sexologist, it's just amazing to me when we get deep emotional connection with our partners, the dynamic sexual connection we can build on top of that. And that's the reason we have people go through the Foundations Masterclass first, so that they get this dynamic, this deep emotional safety, so that for either one of us, but so that Phyllis can say to me, and she's learned the language, she can go, I feel some fear about us connecting sexually. Oh, I feel some shame. I don't feel, good enough. I'm older than I used to be. I don't look like we looked on the day I met. And to be able to process through that. Again, if I'm safe for her, 35 seconds later, we're more bonded. And then that's what builds the dynamic sexual connection. We do entire podcasts on that because it's so powerful. And I had no idea, we just did not know that. I don't think we knew it culturally, but Phyllis and I certainly didn't know it 20 years ago. We had no idea.
Well, I love the part that it's the human condition. And so it's not limited to just, communication, like, oh, this helps us have good communication, or, oh, this helps us solve problems as a business. It's not just a one thing. It's like when you get good at communicating at the core, then it does go over into your sexual relationship with your spouse, when you're able to go, wow, I can use the same language to communicate. It works there too. Or, wow, it works with my children. I didn't know this was about parenting. I thought it was simply about marriage. And then you go, look at this. This is the same language that we would use with our 2-year-old or our 20-year-old. It's even we are startled of the research and startled of how it is working, not just in marriage, but in business and in all relationships. And so, love just hearing from you guys. I know we're going to run out of time. I knew this was going to happen. We've got, we could talk with hours with you guys, but if someone is listening maybe to this podcast for the first time, what would you say to someone who is like questioning or not sure that they want to do this? What would you say to them to get them interested in the connection codes?
I would say not doing, the consequence of not doing it is there's too much fallout. Like everything in life is by design, right? So if you realize that the way your life is going right now is not working for you, then you need to implement something and trust the process. And the reason why we've done it, because we see you do it, when we say to your house, I see you do it. It's not like sometimes, people that implement things don't always feel like they're living it, but I've seen you guys live it the way you do it. And that's inspired us to go, okay, let's try it. This works. People give up too quickly because they get triggered. And I'm like, listen, if you just trust the process, trust how you were created, coded, right? Trust it. Because when you go contra, you're just relying on default, like all but obviously it's not working. So the fact that they've been introduced to you or reading the book is like something, because they're trying to understand a better way to connect and communicate. Right. So my thing to me is like, your life has to be by design. If you want better connection, this has to be the way to do it.
Wow.
I love it.
What about you, Claire? What would you say to somebody?
I would say if they're wanting to better themselves, I'd be really simple. It comes down to me saying, if you're wanting to be a better listener, then and just to listen. If you want to listen well, then it is worth everything. Do you know what I mean? I think it's as simple as that. Just learning to listen.
Wow.
Too many people feel they need to give you advice or an opinion.
Oh, yes.
Or have got to chip in. And I'm like, just shut up. I just want you to me.
Yeah.
Tell me, like, what do you need? How can I help you? Right? You know what I'm saying? That's it. Like, most of the time we figure it out in the process of talking and just going, oh, thank you, I felt heard. So many people chip in.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is that what we found as well, there are moments where I'm quick to say something and he says, you're not listening to me right now. I'm not asking you. And I've said the same thing to him. I don't want you to preach at me. Just listen to me, and there's no, it's not like it's like a mark taken off. It's just, we're learning how to do it. And we are definitely learners. Yeah. So, we're learning how to listen well. So,
we need to print t-shirts that say just Umi.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's such a strong need
Yeah.
for all humans to just be heard. Like, I just need you to hear me but give me something back. Don't just stare at me.
Right.
I need that verbal, audible ooh,
Right.
that I know you're listening, and it allows me to just keep saying what is in there. And I love that, Claire. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That I love the simplicity of that.
Right.
This is worth reading the book, doing the master classes, because you will learn how to become a really good listener.
Yeah.
And that is, wow, love that so much. So every podcast we end with doing the core emotion wheel. So we would love, yes, there it is. We would love for you guys to do the core emotion wheel as we end this podcast.
Wow, put me on the spot here. Wow, cool.
A bit.
Just a little.
Okay. So I felt sad this morning when you didn't come on to me.
You only get 15 seconds per emotion, buddy.
so sorry.
Wow.
I still feel shame at times with the way I treated you. That's still very real. I feel hurt at times when I don't feel chosen in intimately. It kind of makes me sad at times, just because, I want to be that intimate, deep connection for you. At times it feels sad. I would say I feel guilt of 23 years of marriage that I didn't want first. And I kind of feel some fear, not a ton, but like in the next steps of our intimacy, just so we don't rehearse what has been before. But I don't say I feel lonely anymore, because I love what we have right now.
Wow.
And joy, I'm so joyful that we are connected.
Yeah.
Beyond joyful that we are freaking connected. Beyond joyful.
Amazing. Dang, dude. I love it. Cool.
Fab, I feel shame that I was not able to put you first this morning. And sad that happened.
Wow.
And yeah, guilty too. Guilty that actually when I am learning how to do things, I still didn't put you first in that moment. I feel a little fear of doing this right now. I must admit. That's my honest thing. And I don't feel lonely at the moment. So that, to me, it doesn't come into
About that joy.
Joy. I feel so joyful that we're able to laugh and just to kind of know that we are building upon something that is a firm foundation. Brings me incredible joy. I haven't finished yet. I've done sad, haven't I? Hurt and anger.
I mean, you may not experience those right now. If you don't experience those right now, do you still voice them?
When's the last time you felt anger?
When was the last time I felt anger?
or a big time baseball angry?
I felt anger at something that happened at school over the last couple of weeks. I feel angry when it feels like things in the school life we had no control over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And hurt that maybe our voices are not being heard.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing. I love it.
So good.
So it sounds like we could do a whole nother podcast on what happened this morning. That's amazing.
Yes. Yes, to be continued.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Love that idea. Thank you for bringing that up on the podcast. So now everyone is wondering.
Well, yeah, but we can blur your faces out and change your accent like a French accent for that one.
Well, thank you guys so much for being vulnerable and, just being willing to be on a podcast and share your story, share the pain, share the realness. It means the world to us that we have connection coders out there that are willing to do that. And so thank you. And as we always say, we do all of this.
Yeah, because you need this.
You deserve this.
So
let's do this.
Let's do this.
Well, thank you so much to Fab and Claire for both coming on and sharing pieces of your journey and your story with us and being vulnerable about what is happening with you right now in this moment. I know it takes a lot of guts to share this with the world, and I just so appreciate any time I get to hear someone else open up. It really helps us all realize that we're not alone. And so many of us are going through such similar paths and moments in our lives. So thank you both so much for being here. If you're listening and you're like, okay, yes, we want the tools to communicate. And as they shared, it's so much more than just communicating. I love that Fab said that they've made it through this year and realized that even their own team, they've not lost a single member of their team this year, which just shows the level of leadership that they are working in with their staff and the members of their school. I think that's just such a beautiful testament of how the connection codes go so much further than just in your home, but it really is impacting everyone around you. If you're leading a team in your school, in your job, with your extended family, I just thought that was such a beautiful testament of what he said. There's a link in our bio where you can click and take that course, join in our Foundations Masterclass, use the code podcast for 20% off, and start your journey today. As always, thank you so much for joining us every single week. Let's do this.